Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now, Captain Finance himself, Sully.
We are live from the Loft 100 studios in sunny Southern California. Hope everybody is having a great day. We certainly are. Thanks for being along for the ride. I'm Costa, Gerber Godwin, Greg Todorov, and of course, Captain Finance himself.
Oh, look at Howie Font on the set today. Let's not forget James East, Brian Jordan, and Trey Sojourn Hodgman, and the Day Trader Trio is here today. What's up, guys?
That's it.
He didn't resolve, did he, Mike?
He did not.
Brian, have you played those notes on stage with James Brown before?
I have.
What do you think? Whoa. Brian Jordan, he's played. Do that again. Do that again. Do that again.
3, 4.
There it is. God, it's so satisfying. It is so satisfying. Isn't that amazing? It is. It's so satisfying when he does that stuff. Now
having gone to the Berkeley School of Music, thank you for resolving
It's Berkeley. It's not Berkeley. It's Berkeley.
Hey, it's Berkeley.
You realize you know where it's at?
In Boston, right?
Okay, good. So I thought you thought it was in Cal.
No.
The Bears are. There's a company called Toggle AI. It's an analytics firm that provides insights into hedge funds and retail investors. They analyze the S&P 500 across 14 prior elections back to 1964, and it begs to ask the question, Howard, how does the S&P perform after a U.S. presidential election? And here we are again, talking about presidential elections. So when it comes to stock market, one of the best ways to get a sense of what the future holds is to look to the past, right?
Yeah, I mean, big caveat, past performance is not indicative of future.
Oh my God, we're not pitching something. You just did a disclaimer.
Yeah, that was
live
a disclaimer.
on the air.
That was great.
That was good.
No, I joke. That's written at a
They
big
tattoo that on your chest.
at a big bank that I used to work for. The notepad that you had with the heading of the bank at the
From
bottom,
the desk of Howard Font, and then
at the very bottom. Past performance is not indicative
of future results.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
So that's where that comes from.
But I'm just talking about if you look at the indices, Dow Jones, NASDAQ, S&P,
Right.
after the last two presidential elections, whether the incumbent party wins or a new party takes power, kind of dictates. It's almost like the Super Bowl indicator or these other indicators that happen in the stock market.
So we do market updates all the time. There's not that many events that aren't priced in. One big thing that is a source of uncertainty in the market is the presidential election, obviously. So it turns out, according to the data that Sully was talking about, it's a 12% chance if the party in power, the incumbent, and that's a point I want to talk about in a few minutes, stays in, then the market the next year is up on average 12%. And
So if the incumbent stays in, market's up. I'm in. Let's go. Come on.
So it doesn't have anything to do with the party.
No.
It's the incumbent.
Now, if you
Okay, here we go.
If you overlay that
Here's
with
the caveat.
Wait. If you overlay that with the Super Bowl indicator and the St. Patrick's Day indicator and the my mom died on a Thursday indicator.
yeah, and
Don't forget Groundhog Day.
the groundhog. If Greg sees his shadow, like,
Thank you.
Or if everybody's inside of Mike's shadow, which is normally the case.
Circus tent.
this inflation thing, Costa inflation.
Let me read. Yeah, I love how Howard the other day said, Mike, you don't look as inflated as you normally do. So if the incumbent party stays, you got double-digit stock gains the year after, roughly 12%.
So I have a question.
However.
Yeah. The flip side would be what happens if they don't win. And then you're down on average the following
Down
year.
slightly, it says.
Down slightly.
Down slightly, okay.
But down slightly is not as good as up 12.
Right.
But it's incumbent party, not person.
So that's what I want to talk about.
Oh, so it's not the person, it's the party. It has to do with everything. Hello.
Well, what do we think? Who gets to declare themselves as the incumbent?
That's stuck on your couch. You're stuck on your couch.
That's
You're stuck in the driveway. That's how we keep you here. All right.
Big brain
Incumbent
idea.
party stays. Double-digit stock gains. New party, stocks down slightly. There's going to be so much great. There's going to be so much great Saturday Night Live stuff.
I'd argue this is a little different.
I cannot wait.
This is a little different.
Howie, I keep hearing about all these different landings. Hard landings, soft landings. What are we doing? We're talking Tinder dates? We're talking airplanes? What's going on here?
Yeah. No, we're not talking about planes, Devin. It's all about how the economy is going to act with all this inflation and whether or not we're going to have a recession.
Oh, I don't like that word.
I don't like that. Put your tongue back in your mouth.
Soft landing is when economies slow down just enough to bring down inflation, but not so much that we're out of jobs and the market drops.
So, let me get this straight. It's like when you're at a party and you're about to fall down because you had a couple too many G&Ts. That's a gin and tonic for everyone back at home. And then you go to catch yourself using your boss's wife as a safety net. And then on the way down, as she hits the ground, you save the G&T, don't spill a drop, but then your boss is mad about the whole wife thing, and then you lose your job. Am I pretty much hitting that on the head?
You're fired. Get out.
That's such a oddly specific example. Let me try this another way. The Federal Reserve is trying to tweak interest rates in the hopes that it'll cool things down just a bit. They're hoping to ease inflation and avoid the recession altogether. If they pull it off, that's a soft landing. A hard landing is when the worst case scenario, they raise rates too fast or too high, or some event happens the Fed can't control, and the economy just crashes. Businesses are going to close, people lose their jobs, it gets harder to run the economy just in general. Jerome Powell is the guy running the Fed. He's in the pilot seat. He's trying to steer us toward that soft landing, but it's tricky. Some folks think that he will slam on the brakes too hard, and that could lead to an even harder landing.
So it's like if Powell and the Fed don't play it just right and smooth this in with all the interest rates and the mumbo jumbo, we nosedive and bust our face muscle.
Actually, pretty close. It all depends on things like the jobs report, inflation numbers, and how people are spending. It's a balancing act.
Let's hope this Powell guy's got steady hands. Last thing I need is another crisis cramping my style, you know what I mean?
Your lifestyle is a crisis.
You're watching the Big Biz Show.
Was that a t-shirt that said, I'm a slut for deviled eggs? Thank you, Devin. Devin and Howie, once again. Are you guys going to I think it's time to have him go on the plane with you back to Wall Street. That's one of the greatest episodes ever of Howie and Devin go to Wall Street.
Take him to the office. Take him into the office.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And get thrown out.
He won't let in.
Okay, listen. So we're talking about the outcomes after presidential elections of the stock market. James just pointed out, because he found out from a friend, that you can bet now on the presidential election.
Yeah, James, there's a helpline, by the way.
Hey, you know, I know a guy
for a couple weeks.
Can you really? Is it like DraftKings does it?
Yeah. Well,
James, where does it happen exactly? Do you know? Yeah, sure you don't. Sure.
Yeah, right. Who, me? I don't know.
1-800.
Okay, so just to if you're just joining us here, just to review here, if the incumbent party stays after the election, we should see double-digit stock gains after 1 year. This is data going back to 1964. And if the new party in power comes into play, stocks are down slightly a year after. Now, I gotta say, I would have a hard time believing that the pro-business Donald Trump, the new party coming in, would have an adverse effect on the stock market based upon his historical record going back. Do you agree or disagree?
I think that's fairly reasonable, and I think that the historical data is a little bit different than the current situation. One, we have incumbent president running who's not currently in office, and two, the incumbent party nominee is different than the current president.
So what you're basically telling me, Howie, is all this is crap and none of that matters. Yeah. Can I give you more bad news?
I don't know if it applies, I think is the better
Let me give the Republicans more bad news.
Okay.
You're not going to really, this will be a surprise for most of you. I've said this on the air before.
They're running out.
Under a Republican administration, the economy does better, but the stock market does worse. Under a Democratic administration, economies do worse and stock markets do better, believe it or not. And that goes back to 1964 as well. So I think this year's a crapshoot for a number of reasons, because I think we are officially post-COVID. The economy that was shut off like a light switch has come back like a sunrise, and the sun is up, finally. I think that we have some fatigue, some price fatigue, but the problem is that we're used to it. And now we have wage inflation in the right direction, finally, after the last couple of reports. So I think here's the good news, is that inflation's being staved off. People are going to make more money, which is basically when you have gas prices up that you're used to, instead of like cutting off the top of the blanket, sewing on the bottom of the blanket, it's a net zero. But I think you have to understand at the very end that the economy is not the stock market, because only as of this week, 47% of us participate in the stock market. How many of us participate in the economy? Well, it's like the mortality rate. 100%. There is a 100% mortality rate on the earth. All right?
Right now, so at jameseast.edu, the odds are President Trump minus 140, Harris is plus 120.
Is that not?
Is that about
will you
even?
explain
What is that? Is that?
No, listen. Will you explain the betting line to us, because you're a sports.
Well, you got it. You have to bet 140 to win 100. Whereas, if you bet 120, if you bet 100, you'll win 120. If you bet, and Harris wins. So minus is always. That's the that's the leader in the clubhouse.
I'm completely more confused than I was.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
Say that again.
Right. 220, 221,
Slow it
whatever
down.
it takes.
It's
People in the
Mr.
back.
Mom.
Yeah.
No, it's a lot closer than
Well, wait. So it started it again. So Donald Trump is minus.
minus 140. So to win $100, you got to bet 140.
That means he's a favorite.
He's the favorite.
They're given points.
Given points. That's right. Trump is giving points.
Okay.
Whereas if you bet on Harris, she's the underdog. She's plus 120.
Let me just make one point, because people, this is new.
Here's his point. Don't gamble.
Right.
Yeah, don't be James East.
Yeah. Talk about the latte
How
fund.
did you get thrown in here?
I know.
I love you, James.
The betting lines are new, so I don't want people to be reading them incorrectly. You read them differently than polls. A poll will do a sampling and say 49-51, candidate XY. The betting lines are going to bet, if there's a 10% difference in the polls, that candidate with the 60-40 or 55-45 is definitely going to win. So the betting lines are going to be at like 90% the candidate's going to win. So they're going to be outsized towards who they prefer. The betting lines.
And with the polls, they always say within the margin.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always that little plus or minus 3 or 4.
So you're always going to see bigger differences in the betting lines, and so people should watch out for that and not think it's as sure as if the same numbers were polled.
As far as economies and stock markets go, in your opinion, I mean, we've had such fatigue because the biotech sector has been a dog dog of the Nasdaq. They used to call it dogs of the Dow. There's been a dog in the Nasdaq. But then you see other companies like the AI companies coming out here, and you see the self-driving cars and the EVs that are going in the right direction. So market sector indicators say that it's going to be a pretty good year in 2025. I don't think a presidential election is going to get in the way of the next AI company that comes out and can write the next presidential acceptance speech, so to speak.
And
no pun intended.
In the long term, it's all priced in, and this is all bumps in the road.
Yeah.
I mean, whether one stimulus bill gets passed or doesn't, we spend a little bit extra money. No, that's not going to affect the overall business performance.
Are you still concerned about Japan and China? Because again, if you don't believe in a global economy, look no further than our biggest. We're the biggest customer of. Our biggest customer is Japan, and we're the biggest customer of China. Are you still concerned, like you were a month ago, about what's going on with those?
Deeply.
In terms of inflation.
In terms of inflation, I'm concerned about China, because they, to get their own house in order, will be inflationary. They can afford
so they will manipulate their currency, which is, by the way, why the yuan will never be the global currency like they say it will be. And the U.S. is currently the global currency. What that means, if we're the global currency, is everything in this world is priced in U.S. dollars. Mm-hmm. Okay, so everybody in every country, we're the industry standard. And of course, the ruble will never be there for obvious reasons, because Russia's basically a third world country at this point. But China has always been, vying for, we want to be the global currency. But there's so much manipulation going on because of import-export that the Chinese yuan will never be that. But
no, and they try to do it by basically paying people. They pay Argentina, they pay Pakistan.
So are you basically saying they're going to manipulate their currency to raise and raise prices to try to keep it? It's going to keep inflationary pressure on us.
I'm saying they're doing that. Yeah.
So just as we're on the off ramp of inflation.
Yeah.
And obviously, if the wholesalers are paying more.
Yeah, and the Europeans lowered rates again today, so that'll flow over to us a little more slowly than the Chinese, because we export.
You know how we get 90% of our pharmaceuticals from China?
No, it's 90% of our antibiotics.
Antibiotics, excuse me. Is the reason we're going to China is because regulation here would just kill that industry, and that would make it too expensive.
Cheaper there.
Just cheaper there, and that's why we do it.
That's becoming less and less true, though. As China grows, we're moving to Southeast Asia and other countries to go where.
Okay.
And to Howie's point, it's not going to be cheaper there.
Yeah. At some point, it won't.
By the way, Mike, that means that not the Funyuns that you eat so often are going to cost more, and that Slim Jim.
Those are made in Mexico.
It's the containers that the plastic it contains your Funyuns, and the ink that the Funyuns are in are going to cost more too.
And my Ozempic is going to cost. Lose, lose, lose. Son of a gun.
I think around the clock here. Do you think next year is going to be better or worse than this year in terms of the economy and the stock market?
I think the stock market is going to take a little dip, but I think the economy is going to, because we're going to drill, baby, drill.
Ooh. I think if we can avoid a geopolitical event, I think the economy is going to be up. I think we're going to continue to
I
grow.
think it's looking good.
Yeah.
Really?
I don't know.
Are you full of crap?
Yeah.
How you got the last word?
I think the panel's really smart. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Oh, boy.
I'm just thinking
Freaking
positive.
Switzerland over here.
It's going to be
Boy,
great.
he's good.
Yeah.
Harry's going to be great.
Chocolate and gold.
Well, I think it's going to be great too, Harry. So, you know what?
Who wants a little gin fizz?
See you guys in 2025.
All right, much more with the Big Biz Show after this. Keep it here. Wow, he made that cocktail. We didn't even see it.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Oh. Big Biz Show from sunny Southern California. We are inside the Loft 100 studios. Hope everybody is having a great day. As always, we are, because we're doing this show. I am Costa.
Well, some of us.
Yeah, some of us. The lady in the middle right there is Mary Burt Godwin, our executive producer.
I thought you were talking about Sam Whiting. I was like, look closer. He has the purple shirt.
Sam, I swear to God, I was not trying to.
The lady in the middle. Thank you.
And Captain Finance himself, Sully, who will introduce our special guest.
Everyone. Who's here? Steve Brady. Tempest Therapeutics, of course, is a publicly traded company we've been talking to for the better part of a year. Stock symbol TPST, and of course, the highest single-day gainer in the history of the stock market was Tempest Therapeutics, and of course, it's because of this guy right here.
That's right.
No, it's actually this guy. Good to see you, man. I always love when you come to the studio.
Thank you.
And you have
Good to
now
be here.
brought not only the beauty, but the brains as well. Of course,
They do have to be separated.
Sam Whiting is the chief. You're the chief medical officer and head of R&D. You got to be a proud guy here. And I'm gonna let you guys talk about this. But before we talk about this, you know, I'm kind of a news junkie about your stock, and mainly because when you put out great top line phase 2 data, your stock gained 10,000% or something crazy in one day, based upon fundamentals, based upon the news, and then subsequently. You put out better news, and the stock market didn't react because it didn't understand the news. And I think there's a third time here that you put this great news out. So the recent news says you're partnering with Roche. Roche is not a small company. Roche is a big pharma. And I think that the market thought, oh, that means maybe they're not going to get bought by Roche. Let me just remind the investor, this is coming from me. The last time you had partnered with a pharmaceutical company was a little company you might have heard of called Merck. And what did they do after they partnered with you?
So that wasn't Tempest. That was the prior place I worked.
I'm talking about you. I'm talking about you.
Yeah, personally, yes. So the last time it was, yes, the company I was in was called Immune Design, right? We were also a cancer company. We were acquired by Merck. And if where you're going with this is, yes, we signed almost an identical agreement with Merck.
And Merck bought you.
And then Merck bought us that we just signed.
Now, do you bet on the jockey or you bet on the horse?
Yeah.
So I wanted to get that other, because I love you, I love the company. And we don't talk about stocks very often. We talk about companies and therapies. We rarely talk about stocks, other than talk about a stock symbol. But I see this happening here, and I see to myself, perhaps the biopharma world, who's had a real tough time in 2022, 2023, when we were told by JP Morgan that this is going to be our year, couldn't raise money in the first quarter, but the second quarter actually looked pretty good. I think the biopharma market industry needs to reach out to the Johnny Lunch Bucket and the Cindy CEO that are not in biopharma and put out very plain language press releases that say, hey, we may not have a cure for cancer yet, but it looks like we got one, or
Tempest
something.
for dummies.
Yeah, honestly, because I think what happens is I start reading, and I read other biopharma press releases just because ever since I started following you guys, and I think this perception versus reality thing is the bane of your existence, don't you think? Steve, comment on that, because you know what you're doing. You know what's happening there, and I think if you look at the news, you go back and historically, do you think that I mean, we're saving lives here. This is good news for the world. Forget about stock price. Forget about earnings. Let's talk about what we're doing for the universe, right?
Well, that's the reason we're doing this, right? I mean, Sam's a practicing oncologist for many years. I have the freedom actually to choose to not be in oncology, and I've done it for most of my career because we are trying to move the needle for cancer patients. Unfortunately, and this is not going to be popular with our friends in the investment world, investors go in moods, and things are popular to them and they're not popular. And oncology, this sounds ridiculous, has not been popular. It's gotten tougher and tougher to raise capital for a lot of oncology companies. And you said something important, Sully, earlier, which was in fall when the stock went crazy, and we put out what was really the first real data cut from the phase 2. And this is for the amezalpat program in first-line liver cancer. That was a fundamental reaction, right? It was, wow, this is great.
It wasn't a pump, it wasn't an algorithm, it wasn't anything other than, oh my goodness, these guys may have a cure for cancer.
Is your biggest mountain what you just talked about? Oncology not being popular because most of the unwashed masses like me, it's hard for us to grasp exactly what's going on other than, hey, make me better.
Yeah, well, what is the kind of a secret behind the curtain of finance in life sciences is that moods thing, is that you can have people who 2 years ago would look at exactly the same data and say, holy crap, I'm all in on red or black or whatever gamblers phrase they use. Well, because they're in a different head state right now.
Okay.
The exact same data set, they won't move. But then in 6 months from now, it could be all the rage again.
No.
Right? You've seen it with gene therapy.
Sure.
Gene therapy has gone in and out of
CGT, cell gene therapy, right?
I mean, yeah, or
super expensive.
Cell therapy was one of the most popular thing a few years ago right now. And now people won't finance cell therapy.
Now I know there's many
certain targets.
Look, we're in many more markets than we were before, and of course, El Financiero and Bloomberg EU and such. We're going to get to exactly what these guys do, but I wanted to get this out of the way because it was just frustrating. And we'll get to those folks who have not heard you before will understand what you guys are talking about. But Sam, how do you feel when you know what's happening as a scientist, as an oncologist, and there's a hitch in the giddy up with the message versus the perception? The encode decode isn't working as well as you thought it was going to. Does it discourage you as a scientist, or are you just ignore it?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think that those of us who are treating physicians in oncology, which I was for many years, or developing drugs to treat cancer, it's such a challenging, important road. I just put my head down and I keep going. So for me, what's encouraging, not discouraging, is that the drug is active, that we did a clinical trial where we were able to randomize patients with a very aggressive liver cancer and show benefit with our drug added to a standard of care regimen. And those data are positive enough that they absolutely warrant continuing the next stage of development, which is to go to what we call in the field a pivotal study or a registrational study to prove statistically the benefit of the drug. That all just keeps driving, I think all of us in the labs and in the company forward. We'd be happier if it was easier to get the message out to the world, if it was easier to raise money. But honestly, our focus is just on making the drug as good as possible and getting it to work. We're still there.
Okay, so you mentioned liver cancer. For those folks who don't know what Tempest Therapeutics does, we're talking about liver cancer. A new effective cancer treatment continues. So talk about exactly what the treatment is and the audience that the patient set that it hits.
So liver cancer, obviously a cancer that arises in the cells of the liver. It can be caused by a variety of things. Broadly speaking, usually it's a viral infection. But
it's not lifestyle? It's not drinking and eating too many McDonald's Big Macs or Michael? Onions?
So broadly speaking, there are liver cancer cases that are caused by chronic infection with virus, which cause a chronic state of inflammation in the liver, and over years cause typically cirrhosis and liver cancer, or sometimes cancer without first developing cirrhosis. That's actually the dominant cause of liver cancer in Asian countries, where hepatitis infection chronically is still a significant problem, and being born with hepatitis transmitted from mother to fetus is a problem. And then the other broad group, which we call non-viral cancer, is associated with alcohol. It's associated with diet, with metabolic states.
Hold it right there. This is fascinating. This is why we wanted you guys here for the whole hour. That's exactly what we're doing here. Sam Whiting, Steve Brady, Tempest Therapeutics, ticker symbol TPST on the Big Biz Show. We're talking about some good news as it relates to liver cancer. Bad news when it relates to Michael's diet and lifestyle, but we'll talk about that coming up in a big show. Mike, come on, put it down for a second. The doctors are good for that. Loft 100 Studios, the Big Biz Show, and our affiliates and our hosts are not registered investment advisors or broker-dealers.
Our show hosts make no commitment that the purchase of securities of companies profiled or otherwise mentioned in our programming
are suitable or advisable for any person, or that an investment in such securities will be profitable in general.
Given the nature of the company's profile and the lack of an active trading market for the securities, investing is highly speculative and carries a certain high degree of risk.
We profile selected publicly traded and privately held companies on our program.
Most of these companies that we profile have provided compensation to Loft 100 Studios and its hosts for the profile coverage.
From time to time, we sell shares of the companies profiled in the open market that we receive as compensation for coverage of client companies.
But never sell stocks if we are speaking about interviewing or covering a public company who has paid compensation.
Specific questions on compensation can be obtained by contacting producer at sullyandgroup.com.
Listeners should verify all claims and do their own due diligence before investing in any securities mentioned on this program.
Investing in securities is speculative and carries a high degree of risk.
We encourage our investors to invest carefully and read the investor information available at the websites on the
Securities and Exchange Commission at sec.gov and or the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, at www.finra.org.
In over 175 countries and all the ships at sea on the American Forces Network, it is the Big Biz Show. As always, a shout out to the brave men and women of our United States Armed Forces for what you do, what you've done for us. We roll on here. Costa, Mary Godwin, Greg Todorov, and Sully.
There you go. You like that? Brady. The Day Trader Trio, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. James East. Played with everyone from Lionel Richie to Eric Clapton, of course, Brian Jordan, who's played with, what's his name, James Brown?
Heard of him.
Dave Matthews.
Yeah.
Lauren Hill. Trace Sojourn Hodgers plays with Little Chris the Nightcrawlers at the Mira Mesa Bowl every Thursday. Good to see you. Trace is a rapper. Can you play that again for us again? And I want Trace, do this one more time. I want to hear this.
Uh-oh.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Watch this. All right, Trace, take it.
1, 2. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this middleman's entries of articles. This artist made audible observations for mass production and mass consumption. I'm a fly school graduate ready for class instruction. Now the path that I'm trudging got potholes and dips, but I'm not supposed to rip when I got flows to spit. I reveal stars and nicks on this road that I chose. Or rather when I stray from and I fall, but then who doesn't? It's like that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
This is why they don't.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
It's a tool.
Yeah. It's a 46 and 2.
There you go. Steve Brady. So we did that for Steve. Steve Brady, Sam Whiting from Tempest Therapeutics. So continue with talking about why this is such good news with respect to what you're seeing here. Obviously, you guys are a publicly traded company. You can only tell us what you're allowed to tell us. But at the same time, though, this is good. There's good news on the horizon here, especially because this top line data on phase 2, the way things are moving, continuing seeing the data sets happen. Talk about that.
Okay, so again, fundamentally, we're trying to make inroads into treating a stage of liver cancer that's typically terminal for people who are diagnosed. There are approved therapies for liver cancer. Some of them work fairly well, which is never good enough in cancer, because fairly well means that people still die of it.
Speaking of that, because every time something goes wrong, I go to WebMD like everybody else, and it says either have Parkinson's or liver cancer. Is it pancreatic and liver cancer? Are they the two worst? Is it a death sentence necessarily now?
For advanced stage liver cancer, I'll answer that two ways. Statistically, yes, but I treated a lot of patients, and every single. This is actually important for me to say. Every single cancer, including the pancreatic cancer, whatever you talk about, there are people who beat it.
No kidding.
And so that's a side note about hope, basically, that you experience as a patient. But liver cancer, advanced liver cancer, is usually fatal. It takes years now, and therapies have gotten better for patients, and people are living long. But still, right now, the 5-year survival with advanced liver cancer is 20% or less.
Sam, are we talking about, with you folks, quality of life, or are we talking about curing it? Or both?
Both are important. Both are important. And actually, we're excited. We're optimistic about our therapy from both perspectives. So just quickly, from a quality of life standpoint, when you're being treated, even when you're being treated for a cancer that you're not going to be cured of, or maybe even more importantly in that context, how do you feel every day? Are you able to work? What are you doing? How's your time with your family? That's critically important. Drugs that ruin your quality of your life, people still take them, right, in order to try to live longer.
We're talking about chemotherapy and such like that.
Chemotherapy is the classic example, yeah.
But it's not alone.
But it's done alone.
You and I, we literally
yeah.
just had this conversation this morning.
Yeah. So anyway, so from that perspective, we're very excited about our drug because in addition to looking like it's working in the study that we've completed or we're running with Roche, it is super well tolerated from a quality of life perspective.
This is an orally administered.
Yeah, it's a pill.
Correct?
It's a pill. Yeah. And that's actually a plus also. Taking a pill at home is kind of like, it's not that different. I mean, from taking your other medicine.
Taking 8 today so far.
Yeah, no, I know. That's the thing. Is you're not going into the clinic and getting hooked up to an IV and all that. And so cancer therapies that can be taken at home along with the other medications are a big deal from a quality of life perspective.
Are you on, let's say I get a diagnosis, and God, I hope I never do, but Mike, you've got liver cancer. I get a liver transplant. Am I just scot-free out of the woods, or is it not that easy?
No, it's any organ transplant.
I was going to say that's not that easy.
Is obviously done really only in the setting where you're going to die without it, because the process itself is life-threatening. Just getting an organ transplant, and then the immune suppression and the chronic treatment afterwards to prevent rejection of that is dangerous in itself and is life-altering itself. It's still a blessing if you have a terminal cancer and you can get a transplant to do that. But it's our goal, I would say, in medicine is to head off disease before a transplant is necessary.
If this works, and all indications say that we could see this in our lives in short order, what in the life of a cancer patient that has been diagnosed with this, Steve, talk to us about what the outcome is in terms of what that patient experience is like, and then tell us. And then after that, I want you to tell us what the pill does. So what's the patient experience like with something like that?
Well, I can tell you what our goal is.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Well, building on what Sam just said, right? One of our goals was to improve the patient's, trajectory with the cancer, right? Because cure is thrown around a lot,
right?
And it's really hard to say anything, is actually curing.
Yeah, because cure indicates panacea. It's all over, and we're just erasing it, and it's tough to say that about anything.
Right. So when we go into it, we also don't want to give patients false hope, right? What we're trying to do is extend your life, and while you can still live your life. That is a key point. That's why we're proud of the fact that amezalpat has the safety profile that it looks like it has out of the phase 2. So what are we trying to do, right? So what we did in the phase 2 with Roche and what we're looking to do in the phase 3 is we're gold standard endpoint is called overall survival.
You're right.
So we're trying to extend people's life by putting this amezalpat therapy together. And then again, I want to hammer this, we want them to actually live that life if and when they benefit and it's extended. So it's a dual goal, right? You want to feel good about what you're trying to do, because sitting in a hospital miserable, with a whole bunch of therapies to manage your cancer after you've to me, I mean, personally,
right. Well, what's the point? You're trading one bad outcome for another at that point. So Sam, what does the pill do?
The pill amezalpat is it targets what's called a metabolic process, which is how cells generate energy to grow, in the case of cancer, to grow and metastasize, spread through the body, and make people sick. And the pill targets a particular process called fatty acid oxidation, which is the way that cells in the body can use fats as a source of energy, as opposed to glucose, for example, which is the routine source of energy we know about. That process, fatty acid oxidation, the use of fats as an energy source, is co-opted by cancer. Oftentimes in advanced cancers, as they spread in the body, as they get compromised from the setting of finding blood vessels and getting oxygen, for example, and so this drug is in part designed to get in the way of cancer getting the energy and the food it needs to grow and spread. And then on top of that, one of the things that was seen from the very beginning was that the same process is involved in how the immune system functions in a way where the immune cells that prevent immunity from taking out cancer are also using the same fatty acid oxidation, or FAO we call it, process. And so we can go in and target both an aspect of the immune system that's not good and cancer growth at the same time, put them together and get even more benefit.
TPST is the symbol. It's not TPST 1120 anymore. We have a name for it now, right?
We do.
Yeah. I want to talk about potential other outcomes. And also, you got some additional programs coming up. Well, TPST 1495 being one of them.
Big Biz Show rolls on live from the Loft 100 studios. Costa, Maribert Godwin, our executive producer Greg Todorov, Sully, and of course, so proud to have Steve Brady and Sam Whiting from Tempest Therapeutics.
So good to have you guys
at the bar with us.
I want to do this as much as we can because we've always said we want him for a whole hour.
Yep.
And we got him for a whole show.
Thank you.
Greg and I were talking on the break. What were you asking me?
Well, I'd like to know, and I know I'm going to hate the answer to this question, but what is the addressable market of liver cancer?
Well, from a patient population, it's really large. And so actually one of the things we didn't talk about earlier when you brought up lifestyle is the numbers that we're about to give you, it's actually growing, right? Which is rare for some cancers, for a lot of cancers actually. So it's not as big in the United States and Europe, which is around 14,000 new patients a year, which is still a big number.
14,000 new patients a year?
Yes, a year.
In each, the U.S. and in Europe.
Each of the U.S. But when you go to Asia and China, right, China's over 200,000.
Now, is this
a year?
Well, because
New
of course, there's
patients.
is it just because of the population?
Well, it's a function of it's multiple things, right? So you've asked this in the past, right? What drives it in a given region? It's not the same. So China obviously has an enormous population, yes. But as Sam mentioned earlier, one of the primary drivers of liver cancer is viral infection, right? And it's not just in the adults; it's passed to children, from mother to child, and that is a big factor in Asia. The non-viral aspects, the lifestyle aspects, we're seeing that more in the U.S.
But if you look at when I think of lifestyle, I'm thinking about obesity, lung cancer. So eating too much, smoking too much, drinking too much. Right? Is that
those are risks for for liver cancer and
everything else.
Exactly, everything else. Yeah.
So
unfortunately,
my question would be, post-COVID, what is the one thing we did more during COVID?
So you bring up an interesting point.
During COVID, it was
we worked out.
Well, he just said the cases are growing.
No, we ran out of yeast. Actually, this is going to your point.
But I mean, honestly, is there a correlation?
So we did have. There's been some interesting conversations we've had with treating HCZ physicians where they're wondering if we're going to see. We had a normal curve of it increasing because of lifestyle. Will we see even a bump in that growing curve from COVID at some point in the future because of what we did during COVID? It's a question. We don't know.
Yeah. Certainly possible. I mean, if people drink more alcohol, cause more liver damage, there's going to be more liver cancer.
There's more everything.
And so it's just a question of how much really happened during COVID and for how long, how many people kind of more permanently changed their lives versus temporary.
What were the other two countries you said? You said China and...
Well, we did regions. So China is enormous on its own. And then we did the US and the EU. But it's still big. I mean, 14,000 new patients a year is like multiple myeloma.
And that's the metastatic market.
Yes, great point.
Over 900,000 patients a year globally diagnosed with liver cancer.
Okay, so what's the difference? So if you're diagnosed with liver cancer in the metastatic market, what is that?
Oh, that's the extent of the cancer. So metastatic.
When cancer metastasizes, it means it's
outside of where it started, and it's elsewhere in the body. Yeah,
okay.
And that's a subset of a cancer diagnosis. It's always the most aggressive and the most.
So if it's localized, it's still cancer, but it's better than metastasis.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if it's localized, you can cut.
End stage or stage 4 means it's metastatic.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes. That's there are some subtleties there, but the stages refer to the prognostic characteristics of the cancer, and the cancers that have spread through the body are always stage 4. They're always the worst case.
Okay.
And then early stage cancer, which can be a huge deal in your life anyway, if you have to have. So, for example, we talked about liver transplant.
Yeah.
That's for localized liver cancer. So it's in a sense it's earlier stage, but that treatment is life altering. Transplant is life altering.
Can I ask you a question about the pill you were talking about?
Yeah.
Like allegedly Cialis has side effects. I wouldn't know that though. But as far
But you do have 2 bathtubs.
I do. That's right. Crazy enough, and I love sunsets. Do you, any side effects though with your pill? I mean, that type of thing that you know of, you can talk about?
Yeah, so what we've reported about in our own clinical development is the side effects or adverse events they're called that are reported to be associated with the drug during treatment, and those have been fatigue, nausea, super common side effects, diarrhea or loose stools that is super common with most cancer therapies.
Sure.
And with that one, with GI symptoms, what it boils down to is if it's manageable with supportive care medications, with a pill for acid or something like that, then it's absolutely okay, and you keep treating right.
And Mike, for you, that means your life doesn't change. You have the same side effects.
I was going to
what
say
you eat and how you drink.
Life in general.
So this is the same thing.
Yeah.
But before Mary's going to question, but I want to ask real quickly.
Yeah.
Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. You just described stage 4. What does stage 1 look like? And what does stage 2 look like? And how are those assessed?
Yeah. So stage 1 cancers are the most localized. They've never spread outside of the body.
That's something you can cut out.
Exactly. They're not even spread to lymph nodes. Lymph nodes are the immune cell collections that basically survey the body, and so cancer starts with unfortunately a single cell. Right. The very first cell from a cancer that takes somebody's life is all by itself, a single cell, and then it grows, it divides, it multiplies. A tumor that's about 1 centimeter in size can be 1 billion cancer cells all grouped together.
My goodness.
And then as it advances, usually the most common advancement is to lymph nodes that are close by
that would be at phase
the organ, and that can be stage 2, stage 3, depending on the cancer. And then oftentimes the reason that the lymph node positive cancers are more dangerous is oftentimes because they reflect that cancer is spread to other places too that you don't know about. Right. And so you take out the lymph nodes, you take out the primary tumor, and then the cancer comes back in the lung or in a bone or someplace else because it was already out of the barn.
One last thing before Mary gets to her question. I have an important question. I know what it is. Is early detection? Is that the best?
The panacea? Yeah. It's prevention.
In other words, because if it's going to happen, I want to be in stage 1. Yeah. Is that about early detection?
Yeah. So prevention is the goal. It should be the goal of everything in really all diseases, is to make it not happen. And then if it's not prevented,
lifestyle choices and
that could be prevention. Yeah, it could be lifestyle. It can be dietary. It can be there could be medicines actually that are preventative. For disease. Okay. I mean, blood pressure medicines are preventative for cardiac disease ultimately. Okay. And then if you can't prevent it, then finding it early, then the goal becomes, if you can't prevent it, then the goal becomes either curing it or living a long time with it. And the earlier you find cancer, the easier it is to either cure it, which is typically by removing it from the body with surgery, or in some cases radiating it and sterilizing it. But you either cure it or you help people live longer. The earlier the cancer is found, the better. That's why early detection is important.
We're doing this again. Listen, we need to do this once a month. It's fantastic. Of course, Stephen Brady, Sam Whiting. Sam, of course, is the Chief Medical Officer and the Head of R&D at Tempest Therapeutics. Steve is the CEO, and he'll be back on and on and on. Guys,
makes you
thank
feel
you guys.
better.
I know.
People like this
I know. I feel way better.
are steering the ship.
Yeah.
You know?
You're a little yellow though. Just a couple liver spots there, Mike. Oh, I'm sorry. That's just Funyun dust. And those are Bako bits.
Poor Mike.
See you guys tomorrow. BigBizShow.com.